stories about water and urban places. This is Ideanthro. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ideanthro. On today's episode, we answer the timeless question, to outlet pit or not to outlet pit? Here's the deal, this is another one of those episodes inspired by some recent bioretention condition inspections I've been doing. And we're going to talk about, look, when you're building a bioretention system beside a riparian area or another spot where you can discharge overflows as overland flow, do you need an overflow pit in the bioretention system? That is to say, a concrete pit that accepts overflows and then discharges via a pipe at the base. Really what this is coming down to is, if you don't need one, you can build simpler and cheaper systems, but if you do need one, then you need one. Okay, so two potential designs to discuss here. The conventional design, shall we say, is to have a bioretention system that can discharge water in one of three ways: through under drainage pipes, through an outlet pit, and via an overflow weir. So obviously any water that filters down through the filter media will be collected by the under drainage pipes and discharged to the base of the overflow pit. Any water that ponded above the surface more than 300 mils above the surface would then have a chance to discharge over the top of the overflow pit, down into the pit, where it would mix with the treated water from the under drains, and they'd both be discharged together through a pipe out to the receiving environment. And then for really big high flow events, you'd have an overflow weir set higher again that would essentially protect the system to make sure if you ever had a really big rainfall event that completely filled it up and the system overtopped, that you wouldn't have an uncontrolled overtopping event where you might erode the batters. You have a weir that is structurally stable, structurally sound to safely convey those flows out of the system. That's the conventional setup. Under drains, overflow pit, those two connect together and discharge as one, and then an overflow weir to take the flows from there. The alternate setup and the simpler setup is to do away with the overflow pit. So you still have the weir. So any big flows can go over the weir. Now the weir might be set lower in this instance here, such that it still sets the 300 mils extended, or it now sets the 300 mils extended detention depth that the overflow pit once did. And depending on the arrangement of your system, you might then decide to, and if you've got any detention, you might have a staggered weir or the like, but you have a weir, at least part of it is set lower at 300 mils. And then the under drains themselves are still at the base of the system. But because there's no pit, they simply connect together into one under drain and discharge out to the natural environment from there. No pit, no overflows coming down and mixing with that under drainage water. So, scenario one, quick picture. Overflow pit with here, take my word, the under drains are connected in at the base, and that's a picture of how it would discharge to the natural receiving environment. And then scenario number two, obviously there's no pit to look at, so we don't have a photo there, but here's a picture of where that pipe discharges to the natural environment. So, pros of option two is it saves money, but there is one con. So for ages I was very much like, yep, should always do this, any situation, no drums. There is one major con to option number two here, and this is what I saw when doing these condition inspections that I wanted to share. And that major con seems to be that where those under drains discharge directly to the natural environment, they seem a little bit prone to accumulate either some sediment, or maybe to get some roots growing in them, or maybe some like organic matter growing around the outside of them. So have a look at this photo here. This is one of those situations where you've got this discharge to the natural environment. You can see you've got the pipe and it's mainly free, but you've got this matting sitting there. You can see how it's not a very big pipe and that you've got this accumulation there. Then there's this picture as well, different system, different local government area, also got this kind of accumulation, partial blockage. Also, it can be really quite hard to find these small pipes as well, but let's put that as an aside for right now. And what I think is going on here is that for the more traditional, the first type of system, where you combine the under drainage with flows that come over the pit, you have a larger pit coming out, and I think that what that means is you probably get enough velocities coming through those overflows over the pit that the pipe then is self-cleaning. There's enough velocity to clean itself. Whereas I suspect that when we don't have the pit, we suddenly don't have self-cleaning velocity. So if anything does start to build up at the outlet there, not necessarily even coming down the under drainage pipe, but just building up at the outlet because a bit of debris forms there, because some vegetation forms there, suddenly we don't have enough velocity to punch it open and to open it up. We can start to get an accumulation. You might get a little bit of ponding water, and so roots go, ooh, I like that. Get a bit of root accumulation. Now this is really interesting that we see this kind of accumulation happening in a situation like this, but from my inspection of bioretention under drains themselves, actually back up the pipe, we don't see major root accumulation in them. That's an interesting dichotomy, or interesting, what's going on there, to consider more. But in this instance, it seems to be that we've got at least a few systems where with this directly discharging under drain to the natural environment, we're getting some accumulation, some backing up into the pipe's not super big. There's actually a bit of a risk of it maybe even completely blocking up over time, although I've never seen that entirely. And so I don't really, I have mixed feelings about this, because part of me really wants to say, look, I want the type 2 systems because they're simpler, they're cheaper, there's less infrastructure, there's less to maintain. On the flip side though, there is a slight risk of them blocking up. So potential solutions to this are, well, if type 2 systems are easier, and if you have a regular maintenance regime, maybe they are the better option, and you just need to make sure that going to that under drainage pipe and pulling that clean is part of the typical maintenance regime. It's not hard at all. Cleaning this one took 5 seconds. It just has to be done. So if you've got a regular maintenance regime, probably not a big drama there. On the flip side though, if we could figure out a way to make these type 2 systems self-cleaning, then that would do away with that problem themselves. Just have to figure out if that's even possible to get the right velocities down there. So that's the thought to take away. Something to consider if you are building a bioretention system next to the riparian area. Do you want to go pit or no pit? One is cheaper. How are you going to make sure the under drains get maintained on the other? That is the thing to consider. That's what you need to be cognizant of. I'm not going to suggest you go one way or the other, although I have my preferences. Sweet, thanks for tuning in. If you have any thoughts on this, by all means, let me know. I love hearing people's opinions and ideas. Okay, that's it for now. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Before you go, our best episodes come from your questions. This knowledge base, these discussions that are Ideanthro improve with your contribution. So if there's a topic, an idea, a concept that you would like us to explore, come and ask us. You know where to find us. www.ideanthro.com/contact. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and that place you get your good podcasts from. You know where to find us. We look forward to hearing from you. We'll see you soon.